Did you know scientists have found 12 simple things you can do every day to make your dog love you even more? How you say hi, where they sleep, and even the voice you use when you talk to them can all help you become your dog's favorite person. But let's start with the cutest one. One scientist took 10 dogs and put them in a room with their owners. After the owners interacted with their dogs for an hour, she measured their oxytocin levels. Oxytocin is known as the love hormone that helps us bond with others. She found that the more times the owners kissed their dogs, the higher their dog's oxytocin levels were. So, if you want your dog to love you more, according to this study, you should kiss them more. But kissing isn't the only physical touch dogs love. A study from South Africa paired 18 dogs with 18 humans and had the humans pet the dogs. After just a few minutes of petting, the dogs' levels of oxytocin, dopamine, and some other good hormones all went up. But that wasn't the only benefit. They also found that the dog's blood pressure decreased. So not only will your dog feel more love for you when you pet them, but it's also good for their health. And to make the study even better, they found that humans experience all of these benefits too. But dogs have more love languages than just physical touch. This next study gives a whole new meaning to the phrase fur baby. A Japanese scientist, who was just as obsessed with his dog as we are, wondered why the human-dog bond is so strong. So he got 30 pairs of dogs and their humans into his lab. Each pair spent 30 minutes in a room together, with the people petting, talking to their dogs, and gazing into their eyes. Here is what they found. In the pairs who spent the most time gazing into each other's eyes, oxytocin increased by 130% in the dogs and a whopping 300% in the humans. For the pairs that spent very little time looking into each other's eyes, the scientists found no oxytocin increase at all. So what does this have to do with your dog being your fur baby? Well, when human mothers gaze into their baby's eyes, their oxytocin spikes, which helps strengthen their bond. Staring at your dog has pretty much the same hormonal effect on you as a mother staring at her baby. Now, this study was done with dogs and their owners, but is there a special bond between a dog and their owner, or do dogs just really love all people? An Austrian scientist designed an interesting study to test this. She put dogs in a room with a challenging puzzle toy that had pieces of sausage in it. In the room with the dog was either their owner, a stranger, or they were alone. According to previous studies, dogs use their owners as a secure base and explore more when their owners are around. But would having a random person in there have the same effect? According to the study, the answer is no. Dogs whose owners were in the room with them worked on the toy longer than if they were alone or with a stranger. This shows they're more comfortable and confident when their owners are around. But one thing I was surprised to learn was that if there was a stranger in the room or if they were alone, there wasn't any significant difference in how long they played with the toy. This next study is all about what not to do. But first, if you love your dog and want them to love you back, subscribe to our channel so you never miss any of our future doggy videos. Okay, so we've learned a few things that your dog will love. But this next study shows an unfortunately common thing people do that stresses dogs out. In Portugal, they studied 92 dogs that were trained using either rewards-based training, aversive training methods, also known as punishment-based training, or a mix of both. This probably comes as no surprise, but after the training sessions, the dogs trained using aversive methods showed more signs of stress and had higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. But the crazy part is that this study didn't just look at dogs during and right after their training sessions. They did a cognitive bias test when the dogs weren't in a training session. They found that the dogs trained with aversive methods are more pessimistic, meaning they have a more negative outlook on life than the dogs trained with rewards-based methods. So if you want to have a happy dog, according to this study, you should only use rewards-based training methods instead of punishment. I hope you're not punishing your dog. But here's something that probably everybody is doing, using the dog voice. Yep, we all know the dog voice, high-pitched, sweet, and slightly annoying. For some reason, people use this voice to talk to dogs, but does it actually help your dog like you more? A study from the University of York in the UK looked at how dogs react to the dog voice versus a regular adult voice. They found that when dogs were spoken to in the dog voice, they spent more time looking at the person and more time being physically closer to that person than if they used a regular human adult voice. Of course, you can't have a dog voice without a ridiculous nickname for your dog. So leave a comment with your dog's craziest nickname and let's see whose is the most hilarious. Now you know that you can pet your dog, talk to them, and look at them to help them love you more, but there's actually something you can do that has even lower effort than that and costs you nothing. Yep, I'm talking about spending time with your dog. One study found that the more time you spend with your dog, the less likely they are to have separation anxiety. And another found that the more time you spend with them, the fewer behavior problems they're likely to have. You probably would have guessed that, but here's a big question that's not so obvious. What do dogs like most? Quality time with you or food? A study in Atlanta, Georgia tried to answer this question once and for all. They did this with 3 experiments. In the first 2, they did an MRI on the dog's brains when presented with different objects that represented food or praise. Then, in the 3rd experiment, they put the dogs in a maze with food in one branch of the Y and their owner in the other. So what were the results? Well, they were pretty much split evenly. Some dogs preferred food, and some dogs preferred human praise. But here vests the interesting part. Whichever option a dog preferred was pretty consistent across all 3 experiments. So the dog was either a big foodie or a people lover. Now let's see what my dog prefers. Will he choose coming to me or going over to the bowl with some treats in it? Well, this is embarrassing. My dog prefers some measly treats over the person who is the source of these treats and who gives him belly rubs every day. Now, the results from this experiment could be different depending on which treats I use or how long it's been since he has seen me. And that disclaimer goes for pretty much all of these experiments. They are not true for 100% of situations, so take them with a grain of salt. Now we're going to address a controversial thing that many dog owners do. But first, here is a study about a simple thing you can do to get your dog to love you more. Scientists from Hungary looked at how a dog owner's attachment style affected the dog. Through a survey of over 1,500 dog owners, they found that dogs are more likely to have separation anxiety if their owners have an avoidant attachment style. Now, what exactly is an avoidant attachment style? The study describes this as the owner avoiding intimate contact and affection. So one thing you can do to help your pup not develop separation anxiety is to give them lots of loving, so they can be confident that you will be there for them. And speaking of giving them lots of love, here's a question that almost everyone has a strong opinion about. Should you let your dog sleep with you? Well, here's what Dr. Dana Varbel, the Chief Veterinary Officer for the North American veterinary community, says. In general, it is a very good thing for animals to sleep with their people. She said pets that sleep with their humans seem to have a higher trust level and tighter bond with the humans that are in their lives. And here's another quote from her. Dogs and cats who are more closely bonded with their humans get additional health benefits, including increases in beneficial neurotransmitters such as oxytocin and dopamine. Do you sleep with your dog? Well, no matter your stance on your dog sleeping in your bed with you, here's something that every dog owner has to do. Say hi and bye to their pup. And luckily for us, scientists have studied the best way to do each of these. First, let's talk about how to greet your pup. A Swedish scientist had a person walk into a room with a dog they already knew. The person greeted them in one of 3 ways. By talking to them and giving them physical contact, only talking to them, or ignoring them completely. There were 18 pairs of humans and dogs in the study, and they took blood samples to test the dog's oxytocin levels after being greeted. Can you guess which type of greeting raised the dog's oxytocin the most? Yep, the talking and physical touch. Not only did they have increased oxytocin levels, but cortisol, the stress hormone, went down the most during this greeting. But what about saying bye? An Italian study had people either pet their dogs for a minute before leaving or not pet their dog at all. For the dogs that were petted before separation, they showed calming behaviors for a longer period while waiting for their owner's return, and their heart rate showed a notable decrease after the test. And now that you know how to make your dog love you more, watch this video next about 13 things dogs hate that humans do to see what not to do. Thanks for watching.